Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Good afternoon and welcome along to the Locker Room Sunday edition, where we will be looking at all the games from the weekend, including the two that have been played today. Ross County against Hearts, which is just kicking off in about 30 seconds, and the game from earlier on between Livingston and Celtic, that Celtic won by 3-0. We'll also keep you up to date with the games in the SWPL this afternoon, which there has been a few. I am Graham Duffy, hoping very shortly to be joined by David Smith. Otherwise, this is going to be a very long show with just me, but we'll see how we get on. Before we start, I'll just give you a rundown of the SWPL this afternoon. So it's finished Aberdeen 2, Glasgow 0, and Spartans 1, Hamilton 2. The other games this afternoon are Hearts against Motherwell at 3:15, Hibs against Partick Thistle at 4, Rangers against Dundee United at 4, and the big one between Glasgow City and Celtic. Now, both those teams are on 24 points. Celtic are top, Glasgow City are third, and it's basically on goal differences. That's a massive, massive game. And for anyone that wants to watch that game this afternoon, that's at 4:10, and it is on BBC Alba, so that's live, and the programme, I think, starts at 4 o'clock. So if you want to watch that game, that will be live at 4 o'clock. Now, let's get to the Ross County against Hearts game that kicks off. It's kicked off actually just now. We'll give you the team news for that game. Ross County have Laidlaw in goal, Johnson, Baldwin, Iacovitti and Herman. Then it's Tilson, Kansola, Danda, Hewula, Awura and White. On the bench for Ross County is Eastwood, Monroe, Samuel, Sims, Loturi, Watson, Olakbe, Akio and Smith. And for Hearts, it is Craig on in goal. Then it's Michael Smith, Cochrane, Civic, Halliday, Keo Murtsoglu, Snodgrass, Mackay, Connor Smith, Janelli and Shankland. On the bench for Hearts, it's Stewart, Clark, Grant, Forrest, Nielsen, Henderson, Darge, Pollock and Denham. So I'll keep you up to date as that match progresses. And let us now start our review of the games from the weekend, with the game that finished this afternoon at the Tony Macaroni between Livingston and Celtic. Celtic running out by very comfortable in the end, 3-0 winners with goals from Kyogo after 9 minutes, Greg Taylor, the man in form at the moment, after 53 minutes, and Jota after 87. Giakoumakis could even afford to miss a penalty after 82 minutes, having come off the bench 2 minutes before that. Now, I think myself and Reagan spoke on Friday about the fact that, you know, Livingston, especially at the Tony Macaroni, is a difficult place to go, especially for Celtic. I thought Celtic were excellent from start to finish today. They really dominated the game, played some really good stuff. And I think if you're any manager in the Premier League, Livingston, Hearts, Hibs, whoever you play, when you're at home to Celtic especially, Rangers as well, yeah, but mainly Celtic, the one thing you would say to your team is don't concede an early goal. And unfortunately, we did Martindale. That's exactly what happens after 9 minutes. Now, I think if I'm Martindale, I'm disappointed with the defending here, because Greg Taylor picks the ball up quite deep inside Livingston's half, and he's got time to turn and pick a pass. That shouldn't really happen. He picks out Kyogo, and to be fair to Kyogo, it's an absolutely magnificent finish. It just rips the net off. It's a brilliant, brilliant finish from Kyogo. And that sets Celtic up. And from then on in, I didn't think Livingston really caused a lot of problems for Celtic. I thought Celtic were dominant. I thought they knocked the ball about really well. They passed the ball really well. And we've talked before on the show about the fact that, you know, plastic pitches are not particularly great, but I thought Celtic knocked the ball about very well today. And they probably could have had a few more goals, to be honest. And they were just very comfortable. You know, half-time comes and I'm thinking Celtic could be maybe 2 or 3 up. But, you know, they couldn't get that second goal. But then at the second half, you're thinking, right, what have Livingston got here? Can Livingston get back into the game? The answer was no. Now, again, on Friday, I spoke about the fact that Joe Newbley, I think, is a brilliant player for Livingston. I thought he caused problems for Celtic today, but he didn't really get enough of the ball to really drive at them and cause them enough problems. And I thought Celtic defended him very well. And then Celtic get that second goal, and as I say, it's the man in the moment, Greg Taylor. Now, for me, even as a Hearts fan, I think for me, Greg Taylor's probably been the player of the season so far. Not just for Celtic, but just in general in Scotland. I think right now, if you stop the season and you had player of the year, I think Greg Taylor's got a great chance of winning it. He's been excellent. He's got a new lease of life under Postecoglou, who really seems to rate him and trust him. Now, I think before Postecoglou came in, there was probably a lot of folk thinking, you know, Greg Taylor's not good enough for Celtic anymore. He's more than proved that he is. He's been excellent. And, 2 goals in the space of a week. Having got the winner against Hearts last week, he's now got his second goal today. And again, it's very good play from Celtic and a good finish from Taylor. And at that point, 2-0 up, the game's done. Livingston don't really have enough to get back in the game. And I thought Celtic were very comfortable. As I say, they played some really good stuff, got the ball down, passed it really well. And you look at that bench, Jota, who for me is an excellent player for Celtic. I said on Twitter, probably about last week, about for Hearts mainly, who is the player at Hearts that got you off your seat when you were young? For me, it was John Cahoon. For Celtic fans, if you're watching Jota, that guy is just an outstanding talent. He can go either way. He's got 2 great feet. He's quick. He's got great delivery. And he can score goals, as he's proved when he come off the bench and scored. There was, obviously, the VAR check for offside, which he clearly wasn't offside. And he finishes it for 3-0. Giakoumakis misses a penalty. Another one against Livingston. Now, I did have to laugh because when I came on, I had heard Postecoglou before the game, after the game. And he was asked, is that Giakoumakis off penalties? He went, no, he's a goal scorer. I'm sure he want to take again. He's unlucky. He does hit the post. He's a little bit unlucky with that. But he is a goal scorer. Goal scorers want to take penalties. So, I've got a lot of admiration for Giakoumakis that he missed a penalty against Livingston last time, but he's not let it affect him. And I've got no doubt he'll score the next one. Absolutely guaranteed he'll score the next one. And obviously, VAR again got involved. Now, I know if our friend Michael was on the show, he'd be asking about last week to this week, when obviously Michael Smith handles last week and Celtic don't get a penalty. This week, Andrew Shinnie handles and does get a penalty. I think for me, the handball law is a very difficult one. Now, we knew there'd be teething problems with VAR. That was always going to happen. It's happened in England. It's going to happen in Scotland. But again, I think the Shinnie one's a penalty. I think he's maybe a bit unfortunate, but it's a penalty. And I said already, I think on Friday, I thought the Michael Smith last week was a penalty. Even as a Hearts fan, it does hit his hand. And I think players' reaction always tells you something. And if you look at Michael Smith last week, he was very sheepish, thinking, I might not get away with that one. And he did. Andrew Shinnie didn't get away with this one. The referee goes to the monitor, sees it's a penalty, gives it. It's a stick-on penalty. So, yeah, Celtic very, very comfortable. A very, very good afternoon. Celtic fans travelling through to the Tony Macaroni had a great afternoon. And it's a huge win. On the back of Rangers winning yesterday, which I'll get to shortly, I think, as I say, that potentially today had a difficult game for it. But you've got to say, Celtic were very professional, I would say. And they were excellent. They didn't really give Livingston any real chances. I heard David Martindale after the game, and he was critical of his goalkeeper for the first goal, Max George. Now, I think that's a great strike from Kyogo. Could George do better? I don't think he could. I think it's a great strike. It's a top corner. It's a great hit. And I think you've got to give credit to Kyogo for the strike rather than the Max George for the goalkeeper. So I think he's maybe a little bit harsh on that one. But I think when you play against Celtic, you've got to press them. You've got to not give them any time on the ball. I think Hearts did that at times last week. And I expected Livingston to do that. You know what you're going to get with Livingston? They're very well organised. They're a very, very good side. They're a strong team. They're well organised. But today, you've just got to give credit to Celtic. Celtic were excellent. They were professional. And after Rangers winning yesterday, I'm assuming Rangers fans probably thought Celtic could lose today. They went to St Mirren a few weeks ago and got beat 2-0. This was a potential for another banana skin. But Celtic never let that happen. Getting that early goal, I think, just settled them. And Livingston were never going to go out and play after that. Livingston were going to be very rigid. They were going to try and be difficult to break down again and try and keep in the game for as long as they can. But once Greg Taylor gets that goal, it's done. Celtic 2-0 up. They're not going to lose that. And they can afford to bring on guys like Jota. They can afford to bring on guys like Giakoumakis. They've got such a good squad, Celtic. And I've already said this, and I'll maintain this. I think Celtic will win the league. Now, I know Rangers did win yesterday, but I just think there's something about Celtic. They've got a real togetherness. They've got a real bond. The football they play is very impressive. They go into every game knowing that they're going to win. And I think that's massive. I think under Neil Lennon, probably some Celtic fans didn't really get that feeling. But under Postecoglou, just the way that he speaks, the way that he talks about the game, the way that he is with his players. I've just mentioned him, Greg Taylor. He's got a new lease of life. James Forrester's looking like he's kind of back to his best a little bit. So, yeah, I think Celtic are in a very good place. They go to Madrid on Wednesday. Now, again, Can Celtic win that game? It's going to be very, very difficult, of course it is. You're going to a fantastic stadium and against a top team. But what I would say is, if you look at Celtic, I thought Celtic against Madrid in that first game were very impressive. I thought they played some good stuff and they just weren't clinical enough. When you're playing against teams like Madrid, you've got to take your chances, and unfortunately they couldn't. But they gave Madrid the game until probably the second half. But again, I think I said at the time, if you go back to the start of the second half, Maeda has a golden opportunity to put Celtic 1-0 up in that game, and he kind of sclaffs it. You can't do that against Madrid. You might not get many chances, so you've got to take them. So if Celtic can keep it tight over there at the Bernabeu, they might give themselves a chance. But honestly, if I'm a Celtic player, I'm just thinking, wow, what a place to play football. We're against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. What a magnificent occasion. Now, I don't think Postecoglou is going to go at that game thinking, we're going to get hammered, let's just enjoy it. I don't think he will do that. I think he'll go there to try and win the game. And Celtic have got quality. Celtic have got players that can cause that Madrid team problems. So it's a very difficult game. And if Celtic can win this, what a confidence boost that would be for them. To go to Madrid and win, that would be huge. It will be difficult, of course it will. But if you're Celtic, you've got to be positive and try and think we can get something here. So just in the back of today's game, I think Celtic are in a very strong place. I do think they win the league. There's a long way to go. We've got the break to come up for the World Cup, which I'm looking forward to. I'll be honest, I'm looking forward to the World Cup. I know Scotland aren't in it, but I've got a little bit of a thing for Belgium. I think they could do well in this tournament. So I think the break's coming at a good time for everybody. Refresh, recharge the batteries and go again after Christmas. So yeah, Celtic in a very good place. 4 points clear again, I think. So yeah, Celtic were very good today. Livingston, I think we say quite a lot in these shows that games against Celtic and Rangers, you're not going to be defined by that. And I don't think Livingston will be. They've had a decent season so far. They're sitting 8th. They've got 16 points. I think they'll be fine. Potentially, they're going to be a top 6 club, I think. I think David Martindale is a fantastic manager. He's a fantastic coach. He's had a lot of problems in the past that everyone knows about. But I just think David Martindale, along with Postecoglou, is a very likeable guy. They're always very honest in their interviews after games. Some managers just think, you listen to them and think, you're just talking nonsense here, mate. But I don't get that with them. They're very honest. So, yeah, I think Livingston are going to be fine this season. I would say, again, I did mention this on one of the shows on Friday. I'm not sure Nubel will still be there come January. I think he's too good for Livingston. I think he'll probably, if he doesn't move to a bigger team, maybe Hearts potentially, I don't know. But if he doesn't move to a bigger team, I'll be maybe a bit surprised. But for Livingston, he's a huge player to hold on to. They need to keep holding Nubel. But Livingston are going to be fine this season. I've got no doubt about that. So, yeah. Let's move on now. And I'm just going to say right now that it is Ross County 1, Hearts 0 after 12 minutes. Ross County actually had the goal decided after 6 minutes, but Ross County have taken the lead. So my beloved Jambos are 1-0 down, and I can already feel the seed from Hearts fans saying Robbie out, but a long way to go yet. But it's 1-0 to Ross County after 12 minutes. I'll get to the goal scorer very shortly. Let's move on now to Ibrox, where on Friday, myself and Reagan said, this is a great chance for Aberdeen. The goes to Ibrox in good form. Jim Goodwin had talked up Aberdeen before the game and said that, Aberdeen had got a chance to win this game. I'm in a couple of group chats and a couple of Aberdeen fans were very positive, very comfortable that they could win this game. And I'll be honest, I did as well. I thought Aberdeen were getting Rangers at a good time. I thought this was a great opportunity for Aberdeen. And unfortunately for them, they were absolutely hammered. There's no debate about that. They were hammered. Rangers started digging quite well. They couldn't manage to get the lead. And then Connor Barron scores after 21 minutes. Great play by Duke. Really good hold-up play. Connor Barron's first goal of the season, first goal for Aberdeen. It's a very good finish from him. And at that point, you're thinking, Aberdeen have got a goal here. 1-0 up, that Ibrox crowd will turn. But not long later, Antonio Cholak gets his 14th goal of the season. Really good move by Rangers. Some really good football played. And from then on in, it was pretty much a canter for Rangers. They were excellent. Now, I don't know if any Aberdeen fans are watching this. I mean, the system for me didn't work for Aberdeen playing 3 at the back because they basically went 3-4-3 against Cholak, Sakala, and against Kent. And I thought they had a field day. Spoken numerous times about Ryan Kent. He doesn't perform enough. I thought he was excellent yesterday along with Sakala on the other side. I thought they were very impressive. Rangers had 36 attempts. and they had 13 on target. That shows how dominant Rangers were. They absolutely hammered Aberdeen. And that performance, has that been coming from Rangers? I don't think it has. I think it probably took a lot of foot by surprise. Van Bronckhorst spoke before the game about the fact that, Rangers had to be patient, and they were. They were very good yesterday. There's no doubt about that. They were excellent. They absolutely dominated Aberdeen. I was disappointed with Aberdeen. I thought they were very fragile at the back. They were, I think Paul on one of the tracks last week said that Richardson and Stewart gives them the fear. I can see why now, because they were very, very poor yesterday. But they weren't the only ones. I thought Aberdeen in midfield had really nothing to do to really cause Rangers any problems. They weren't getting a foot on the ball. When you go to Ibrox and Celtic Park, when you get the ball, you've got to use it. And Aberdeen didn't do that. Aberdeen didn't do that yesterday. I thought Rangers totally dominated, totally dictated the game right for the start. And they scored some good goals as well. John Lundstrom scores the second goal just on half-time. Again, it's poor defending from Aberdeen, though. It's a shot from the edge of the box, and Ben Davies does very well. I'll be honest, he does very well to keep it in. But Aberdeen players are static. They're standing watching. Ben Davies doesn't, pulls it back, and Lundstrom scores. That point, Rangers going 2-1 up at half-time. The Rangers crowd are bouncing. They're really, really on top of them. And you're thinking, second half, what are Aberdeen going to do? Can they change the system? Can they change something? Because they weren't getting enough of the ball. And it didn't happen. Second half, it was more of the same. Rangers, again, dominant on the front foot. If I'm Goodwin, I'm raging at the third goal. Because James Tavernier is on the edge of the box. It's a crossing from Barisic from the left. Nobody's matched Tavernier's run. Tavernier's got a free header, and it's a good header, don't get me wrong. But it's poor defending from Aberdeen. Really poor defending. And 3-1, the game's finished. And I think I heard numerous folks say this could be 9 or 10, and I'll be honest, it could have been. With the chances that Rangers had, it could have been. They were outstanding yesterday. So a very good performance from Rangers, but the fourth goal as well, Morelos has a goal ruled off for offside, and I think he was offside. But it's just poor from Aberdeen. They were just so poor defensively. And it's a massive worry for Jim Goodwin because they were picked off at will. And I think Rangers will be delighted with that performance. They were excellent, Rangers. They dominated the game. They were very, very good. Hoping to be joined by Dave in a couple of minutes, so I won't have to talk to myself for 17 minutes. I will just give you a score update, actually, from Ross County, from Dingwall. It is now Ross County 1, Hearts 1. It was Jordan White that gave Ross County the lead after 12 minutes, and I'm just trying to find the Hearts goal scorer. Potentially could be Lauren Shanklin, because the only one that scores for us just now, but I'll just find it. Just give me 2 wee seconds, and it is... And it's Lawrence Shankland with his 11th goal this season. So Lawrence Shankland, 11 goals this season. He's been brilliant for me for Hearts. The signing of the season for me for Hearts. He's been brilliant. Delighted for him. You get the ball in the box, he will score goals. There's no doubt about that. And he is now, I think it's 9 goals away from getting 20 goals for the season, which is fantastic. Delighted with that. So Ross County 1, Hearts 1 after 50 minutes. It's an entertaining game from what I'm hearing so far. So yeah, 1-1 between Ross County and Hearts. But just back to Rangers, that performance Rangers was needed. There's been a lot of pressure on Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. There's been a lot of Rangers fans criticising him. You look at last week against Napoli when they got beat 3-0. You go on the Roasting Hot Twitter, and a lot of Rangers fans are saying Gio out. That game yesterday was what he needed. They were excellent, really, really good. And I think for me, what Rangers did yesterday was they used the width really well. I thought Sakala and Kent were very, very impressive all through the game. They really gave Aberdeen a really hard time. And I think midfield, they controlled it. And defensively, there's been a lot of stuff, and I've mentioned this as well, about Leon King and about James Sands. I thought they were excellent yesterday. There was a moment in the first half, I think it might have been at 1-1, and there's a ball play through to Duke, and he's one-on-one with Leon King, and King makes a brilliant challenge, and if he doesn't time it, it's a red card. So fair play to Leon King. Fantastic challenge, and he was very impressive yesterday. Now, Aberdeen didn't give him any problems, really. Maybe a couple of half chances for Aberdeen, but nothing major. And I just thought Rangers were very good from start to finish. And that's got to give Rangers and Van Bronckhorst a lot of confidence that they can perform at this level again. And I'm delighted to say I am joined by Dave Smith. Dave, how's it going?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Graham. Apologies, I was actually still in my bed there.
No, that's right. So I'll come back to Rangers and Aberdeen now, but I'll go back to where I started off, and I'll go back to Livingston against Celtic. Dave spoke numerous times on the show about the fact that the Tony Macaroni has been a difficult place for Celtic to go recently, but this afternoon they were very comfortable and really dominant.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic win for Celtic. I mean, it's notoriously been a tough place for Celtic to go and get a result of some kind. I mean, they've snicked a few draws and grinded out a few draws in the past there, but for Celtic to be as comfortable as they were this afternoon and win the game in the way that they did will give Ange Postecoglou and Cole a lot of praise, a lot of applause, and Celtic were just brilliant in everything they did this afternoon. Full credit to Celtic for getting the job done. So obviously Nick a little bit disappointed, but I mean, obviously the season's never going to be defined against Celtic and Rangers. Yes, obviously got a real good point last Saturday against Rangers at Ibrox, but at the same time as well, I think there's a difference in golf and class between both sides, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible, because let's be honest, Celtic have a lot more quality in the final third at this precise moment in time in comparison to Rangers. Yeah, Rangers showed it yesterday with scoring the goals in the way that they did, but at the same time as well, Celtic had a better nucleus over the park and have showed why they obviously won the league under Ange last season.
Yeah, I listened to on the radio after the game, and David Martindale was very critical of Jack Hamilton, the goalkeeper, for that first goal. It's a great strike from Kyogo, but do you think it's a little bit harsh in terms of Hamilton? Should he save that? I thought it was a great strike from Kyogo.
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic strike from Kyogo, yeah. Maybe Jack Hamilton positioning perhaps could have been better if we were going to be as critical as that. But no, I think in terms of the goal, there was a very, very good strike and one that Jack Hamilton doesn't need to get a lot of criticism from. So good strike from Kyogo, obviously set himself in their way to winning the game. And as you say, I'm very comfortable after in the end for Celtic and also getting the job done. And what pressed Ange Postecoglou the most was the fact that Celtic are probably back to free forward scoring again now. There's different ways to win football matches. There's either 3-4 or 1-0 in the 90th minute type of scenarios, but Celtic are back to winning the games domestically comfortably. And then the aspect that they're brushing the teams aside by 2 or 3 goal margins, such as what they did today.
A score update from Dingwall. It is now Ross County 1, Hearts 2. Andy Halliday has just scored just very shortly after Lawrence Shankland had equalised after Jordan White had given Ross County the lead. So Ross County 1, Hearts 2 after 21 minutes. So let's get back to the Celtic-Livingston game. Dave, I think I mentioned this to Reagan on Friday. For me, Greg Taylor, he makes the first goal today. He scores a second goal this afternoon. Is he becoming Celtic's kind of talisman just now? He's been brilliant for Postecoglou so far this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ange Postecoglou's got a lot of top players, but Kyogo's been brilliant. Let's be honest, they've had some top players across the whole of the park. They have for a while now, but I'm pleased that Kyogo scored again today, but Greg Taylor as well. Greg Taylor I thought was really good for Celtic today. Midfield wise, look untroubled. That's without, let's remember, Conor McGregor not being there either. So, yeah, in terms of Celtic, I think they're showing why they were the champions of Scotland last year and showing why they're a top side. And Celtic are showing why they're back to their usual best, considering how things prevailed in the 10 in a row season. So, yeah, I mean, there's still a long way to go, but when Celtic are winning as comfortably as they are in the way that they are Livingston, I think that tells you a lot about where Celtic are trying to go.
Yeah, now last week, VAR made its debut, and last week against Hearts, Celtic didn't get a penalty for handball against Michael Smith. This week, Celtic did get a penalty for a handball against Andrew Shinnie. Now, I know that our friend Michael was debating why certain things were penalties, which certain things weren't. Was that the right decision today that Andrew Shinnie's was given as a handball?
I mean, let's be honest. If last week, if we were if we were looking at VAR reports from last weekend, Graham, and said VAR room for improvement, I'm pretty sure the report card would have been a whole lot wholesome and troublesome this weekend, because if we'll obviously get on to it, but you've got Tony Watt's scenario. Now, I'm not going to come here and say whether that was a red card or not. We'll get on to that when we come to the time. But apparently, when I didn't really have a massive outcome in the scoreline, but irrespective, was it a penalty? I think it was, right? But at the same time, that's where VAR comes into play. In the next couple of weeks, in the first couple of weeks, sorry, and it's probably until Christmas time. Honestly, I know obviously with the Scottish Premiership we're waiting to go to just well, obviously no football because of the World Cup. But when you look at the mix-ups and controversies, it was never going to be straightforward. Ian Maxwell, the SFA, admitted that, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be no straightforward procedure from this point onward, because it is Scottish football after all.
100%. Giakoumakis comes off the bench after 80 minutes, misses a penalty after 82 minutes, and then Jota seals the win with a 3-goal victory. I mean, Jota, I've just mentioned before you came on the show, Jota is a very, very good player. And if you look at that Celtic bench, you're getting to bring on guys like Jota and Giakoumakis. I mean, they're just so strong in pretty much every department, Celtic.
Yeah, no, 100%, and that's what's the good thing about Celtic. The good thing about Celtic is that aspect that they are very, very strong in every possible area. The quality in the forward areas, midfield-wise, they're maybe a little bit more deep wide from a midfield perspective, but they're still conclusive and still provide a threat from that position defensively. Room for improvement, but I'm saying room for improvement in the definition of probably European football rather than domestic football. So for Celtic, there's not a lot going wrong just now, and that's the good thing about it. Now, we'll get on to the Rangers in a minute, but Rangers have a lot of dirty laundry right now, and that was a massive win for them yesterday. I don't think that was the same situation for Celtic. Celtic was just a case of the washing was need to go to the tumble dryer with a bit more TLC. So in terms of that TLC's obviously been operated very, very well, and won't be that continue, because I think it's a sign they're title credentials are once again today for Celtic, that they can go to a place such as Livingston and win, because as I say, it's been notoriously a tough place for them in the past, and yeah, it's not been a great place for either old firm to go to in the past either. But the fact that Celtic rushed out with flying colours just tells you everything you need to know about how they're getting on at the moment.
Yeah, Celtic played their last Champions League game on Wednesday away to Real Madrid. What do you think that Postecoglou will hope to take from that game?
I think it's about making sure you're diligent, professional, making sure you're well joined the game, making sure there's no obliterations, because Scottish football's experienced plenty of obliterations this season. Rangers have done very notably. When you look at this game, I think it's a once in a lifetime game for players. Not a lot of players in the football careers will get the opportunity to go and play somewhere such as the Bernabeu. It's going to be a terrific occasion for the club. It's going to be a terrific occasion for the players. And I was bizarrely making a point to Al Morrison in this show on Tuesday that Celtic going to Real Madrid is like high on the Lowland League team or junior team in Scotland playing Celtic and Rangers in the Scottish Cup, just because of the dynamics and how massive the occasion could be for the club. So, yeah, it's going to be a good one for Celtic, but I'm pretty sure Ange Postecoglou has the league duties in the back of his mind as well. They played Dundee United on Saturday, and I'm pretty sure if you're Ange Postecoglou, he's looking at that and saying, weeks to bread and butter, we want to make sure we're back there next year. We don't know how the coefficient is going to go this time 12 months down the line. So it's important we start getting points in the board again and start trying to build a further lead from Rangers. And obviously, the biggest game of Celtic season is probably Wednesday against Real Madrid, a big an aspect of Champions League. And then the biggest game of the season after that is when they play Dundee United 3 days later, just because Celtic, as Ange Postecoglou puts it, we never stop.
100%. So a comfortable win for Celtic this afternoon. And just before you came on, I was talking about a comfortable win for Rangers. Now, myself and David had a couple of group chats, as I've mentioned before, and we have a couple of Aberdeen fans in there that were quite confident about going into this game yesterday. And I'll be honest, I thought this was a great chance for Aberdeen to make a real statement. But in the end, Dave, Rangers ran out very, very comfortable. It could have been a lot more. Rangers had 36 attempts with 13 on target. I mean, that is the kind of performance that Van Bronckhorst would have been looking for after the last few weeks.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as I touched upon, game, Rangers are wanted that in laundry pretty yesterday. I mean, any other bad defeat for Rangers point of view, it was basically, I'm not saying it was tax injury of Van Bronckhorst, not for 1 minute, but it would have been, that sugar peg would have gotten even more sugar. And I mean, it wouldn't have been a good look for Rangers at all. So, in terms of this one, first and foremost, I think this was good in a few reasons. Good. First and foremost, the fact they got the win. But secondly, as well, the fact that they got the win after being a goal behind. Conor Barrow obviously gave Aberdeen the lead and they just responded. And let's be honest, had that been a Rangers side not playing for a manager, in fact, commas we had, you wouldn't have seen the way they played in terms of coming back at the game. You'd have seen a Rangers side that would have been pragmatic, would have been a little bit cagey, isolated, would have had no answers, no clues, no searching for answers. The fact they didn't have to do a lot of that yesterday tells you if you need to know. I mean, they had 36 shots in goal, Graham. 36 shots across the game, pardon me, Graham. But only 13 on goal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Which goes to show you how busy Aberdeen were. But I mean, I was speaking to a few friends about this from Aberdeen persuasions this morning. And watching the sports team back as well. And Kelly's, I think, could do better with Rangers as second. I think it is. I think that's poor goalkeeper from his point of view. I mean, the fact that Rangers were comfortable, irrespective of Tavernier's penalty hitting the post, tells you everything you need to know about the fact that it was a comfortable afternoon for Rangers. After Aberdeen, I'll go to Aberdeen here. And, I mean, Aberdeen did have a lot of renewed optimism about yesterday. I mean, Dave Cormack's got that mentality that obviously we want to do well, but also we want to do well in the aspect that we want to be going to Glasgow and getting some points, which is usually, I'll quote Lee Johnson here, is usually brainwashed about players when they're kids. So, yeah, when you look at this one from an Aberdeen point of view, it's an interesting one. And, I mean, they've got off to a great start with Conor Barrow. I mean, Duke did tremendously well. I was wondering why he wasn't shooting, but fair play to Conor Barrow. Young head and young shoulders, and he puts that away in front of 50,000 at Ibrox. And that's probably his first time he's ever played at that again. So fair going to Conor Barrow for that. But Rangers always had a response, and yeah, it appeared to be as although I think there'll be a lot difference of opinions on Jim Goodwin. Not in a bad way, but people will go, he's a good manager, he's good for the Dons, but there's other people going, there's this problem, and that's got to be rectified.
Yeah, I think just before I come to Aberdeen, just touching on Rangers, I mean, we spoke again on this show about the fact that Ryan Kent a lot of times hasn't turned up, but before you came on earlier on, I was saying to anyone that was watching me that Ryan Kent had a very good game yesterday along with Sakala. And I just thought Rangers looked a lot better yesterday. You know, they had a look like they had a game plan. They looked like they had a way of playing. And Rangers just all over the pitch looked very impressive yesterday. And that's the first time we could say that for a while because that's not really been the case recently.
Yeah, well, Ryan Kent had to go off, didn't he? The challenge under Jaden Richardson, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, which goes to show you how much of an contribution and influence, that Ryan Kent had in the game. Because, I mean, Jaden Richardson, I've spoken to a few Aberdeen fans about him, and he's not every Aberdeen fan's cup of tea. I can't really comment on the guy, to be honest, but I want to pinpoint something that a lot of Aberdeen's fans are touching upon, right? And I haven't really learned much into it, right? Probably because I haven't been able to go to Todder as much and watch games, but I've seen it myself when I watched the highlights on Sports this morning. There's a ball played through to Fascist Sakala with one of the chances, and Anthony Stewart, the gap between Jack McKenzie and Anthony Stewart, so wide open. It's like basically a bus trying to get through. The ball goes into Fascist Sakala, through and goal, and Kemarus saves it all boy, but Kemarus saves it all boy, but still. That's what big good sides can do, such as Rangers. But that's what I'm saying. Fast as a cow looked vibrant yesterday. Trollwatch looked back to his best yesterday. Ryan Kent just said they looked a real threat in the final third again yesterday. That's the Rangers side that we've seen in the run to European final almost, right? Now, there's still a long way to go in terms of the perfect performance, 100%, but at the same time as well, it's the Rangers side that are back to improving again. And let's be honest, as Giovanni Van Bronckhorst lost the change room, it didn't look like it faced yesterday.
Yeah, Gordon McIntosh says, it was crazy Celtic got a VAR penalty this week and not last week. Was happy to see it missed, even as a Celtic fan, as was never a penalty in my opinion. Very honestly there, Gordon. VAR is going to play a massive part of the season. I think we all know that. I'm not particularly a fan of it so far. But just touching back on Aberdeen. Now, Jim Goodwin has been very vocal this week about the fact that he thought Aberdeen could get something yesterday. Now, when you say that kind of thing, you've got to back that up. And yesterday, yes, Rangers were very good, but Aberdeen were very, very poor. You know, obviously Conor Barron gets the goal, but Aberdeen were very poor. And that, it was almost like they played three at the back against three Rangers attackers, and it didn't work. The system was very, very poor. And, you know, that's got to be a massive frustration for Jim Goodwin that they went to Ibrox and they didn't really perform.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think Jim Goodwin did a bit of what's the right way to put this? I think he put top was cheap for me. Top was cheap for me. I mean, he kind of gave everybody the PR green tick. I felt in his press conference this Thursday, where he went and says, "I watched clips of Rangers to the I'll give players clips of Rangers to the players." That's all fine about saying that. But at the same time, has your analysis been in depth? Has your analysis been meticulous? 100% it probably was, right? But at the same time, is it one of two things then? If that was the case, is it the fact that the Rangers were just very, very good yesterday? Or was it the fact that there was missing angles from the coverage or the missing angles from the analysis you were doing with the players they've missed out on? I can accept it if it was the former. If it was the first option, I can accept that. Because I can accept a team, I can accept that you've gave 100% into the game, as have they, and they've came out 3 or 4-1 winners. Because you can just go and say, well played, opposition team, right, we'll focus on the next game. We've learned a lot from this game that we can take in the next game. And that's all fine and well. But Jim Goodwin was understandably disappointed. Every Aberdeen fan was understandably disappointed. And you look at this one, I mean, I think Jim Goodwin needs a good response between now and the World Cup. He's got a big 3-game window for me. He's got Hibs on Friday. Yeah, Hibs on Friday. He's got Livingston on Tuesday. And he's got Dundee United on the 12th, which is a 6 o'clock kickoff. Now, let's be honest, the Hibs and Dundee United games are big games for specific occasions because the Friday night game is on Sky. But also, it's on Sky, I think, more because of this American idea, as is the Dundee United game, of course. So it's an opportunity to put Aberdeen in the market, and I think it's big games in that regard. And then you've got notoriously, as we've said, one of the toughest away venues you can go to in Livingston. So it's not going to be easy. It's a massive 3-game window coming up for Aberdeen.
Obviously, I can't get inside players' heads, neither can Jim Goodwin. But Lee Johnson made a point 2 weeks ago for Hibs against Celtic that there's a psychological thing with certain players that when they go to Glasgow, they're beat before they get on the park. Do you think that some of those Aberdeen players yesterday were a bit overawed, especially once Rangers got the equaliser? Do you think some of those Aberdeen players thought, "Oh, we're going to lose this now"?
Probably, but had I been Jim Goodwin and looking at that, I'd have been absolutely irate because Jim Goodwin set up a mentality at the club now where if players aren't doing well, they're out the team. But again, is that Jim Goodwin giving it a PR tick box in terms of saying that to the media just to try and create the headline, or is that actual what's actually going to be happening? Because next time looking in, there's players there that are on the bench that could maybe be doing getting a game just now. I mean, Jaden Richardson's not everybody's cup of tea defensively. There's a lot of parallels made towards David Bates and Nickel Gallagher today, in comparison to Scales and Anthony Stewart. I find it a bit baffling, but at the same time as well, I can understand why people are drawn to those parallels, because some of the goals Aberdeen are conceded, especially away from home, are ludicrous just now. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, Aberdeen are in a good position right now. They're doing okay. Nothing exciting. And that, I think that's the bottom line. Jim Goodwin's sides are renowned for scoring. Jim Goodwin's sides are renowned for goals all over the park. But for me, I think we've got enough firepower in the forward areas of the park with Biowski and Duke and Corey Barron and just brilliant. And Ramirez even. But then the opposite end of the park, we're getting picked up a lot when we're playing bigger sides. I mean, Hearts game a fortnight ago had Cochrane taking that chance and Shanklin taking the chance to come up with a different game at Pittodrie.
Oh, don't remind me. Don't remind me. It still gives me nightmares, that miss.
Yeah, it's a come up with a different game now, which goes to show you that Aberdeen still have a lot to improve on defensively for me.
You mentioned Kelly Roos for that second goal, and I completely agree. I think he should do better. But if I'm Jim Goodwin, what I'd be more disappointed about is the fact that Ben Davis kept that ball in. He wanted that more, and no Aberdeen player reacted, and Lundstrom scores. That, for me, would be a massive disappointment for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are things that you'll look at in the analysis tomorrow. That'll be another Jim Goodwin PR tick box on Wednesday, I bet you. We had a serious meeting on Monday or something. Well, I was having this conversation with somebody this morning because I was out for a few beers last night. I seen a few Aberdeen players out in town last night, right? It's not up to me to determine whether our players can go out in town after a game, right? As a famous Derek McInnes expression tells you, if you were getting beat by Rangers by not playing well or putting in a level of performance such as what they produced yesterday, you wouldn't want to show yourself in Aberdeen City Centre, especially Aberdeen fans about it. And yeah, you get the feel from the outside what it is, although it might be a good thing, don't get me wrong. Players go out for a drink and obviously want to deflect and re-energise for what was a poor performance, but at the same time as well, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all evolve moving forward. And, I mean, Aberdeen are in a good place, but I mean, some of the performances away from home have been poor. I think Motherwell papers over the cracks a little bit. It was a good performance at Fir Park last week, but I think that papers over the cracks a little bit because Lindsay was abysmal. Yesterday was poor. There's been other away appearances where we've just not been at the races at all. A lot to learn for Jim Goodwin and Co moving forward.
Yeah, in terms of Rangers, they played Napoli on Tuesday in the last Champions League game. Rangers yet to win a game, registered a point. Again, I mentioned about Postecoglou. What does he look for in the game against Madrid? What does Van Bronckhorst look for on Tuesday? Is it the same level of performance as yesterday?
I think it has to be. I think that's the benchmark for Rangers. I think they've got to epitomise that moving forward now. I mean, the Rangers have been renowned. I was making the point to Josh about this on Wednesday night, even though I wasn't on for too long on Wednesday. Rangers have played Liverpool, they've played a couple of teams domestically, and that's where Van Bronckhorst is getting this, for me, unnecessary pressure. There is always pressure that comes with being a Rangers Football Club manager. I'm 100% and I understand that, but let's be honest, it's not as though the Rangers were in a bad place. They were in a precarious place, but they weren't in a bad place at all. And Rangers just had to go and improve in a few areas, and that's what they've done. Yesterday was that all coming together for me. It was all coming together in terms of they knew that they were playing an established opponent. They were playing a side that were organised, and they were playing a side that everybody knew they had a lot of quality. Is it Ajax? Sorry, the Rangers are playing. You said Napoli, girl.
I thought it was Napoli. I might be wrong. I thought it was
This is
Napoli.
Gordon McIntosh is what it said there just now. But yeah, in terms of Ajax, I think it's going to be a really, really good occasion for Rangers because you look at that, and Ajax are big sides when it comes to European football. I mean,
Sorry,
easy.
it is Ajax they're playing. Sorry, it's Napoli, Rangers, Liverpool are playing. I'm getting confused. It is Ajax.
Yeah, I mean, Ajax is a big side in European football. The Eredivisie is not the strongest league in the world, but what Ajax possess is obviously Cruyff. They possess total football in Holland. And it'll be a good one for Gio because obviously there'll be a lot of people from back home in Holland watching how he gets on. So I think it's a good test for Gio and co. Good to see where Rangers are at. And then obviously it'll be good in the sense where they can go and see what they're about, see how they're getting on. And I think this match against Ajax coming up kind of defines where Rangers are going to be at this specific stage of the season. Because as I say, I think Celtic possess a lot more quality than Rangers at present. But I'm saying that not comfortably because we've yet to see the full unravelled Rangers yet. We've started to see that this season. We haven't seen the full unravelled Rangers where they run riot, they run all over teams. They were, when Rangers were getting all success in their last season, that was because that's because the car kept going. It wasn't as though they stopped. The momentum just kept on going and they possessed performance after performance after performance. I think what didn't help Rangers from their point of view was the fact that Mike Beale was there yesterday. Irrespective of that, was hospitality, suite, director's box, whatever have you. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. If a football manager goes at a director's box in a game, does that not tell you something?
Yeah, 100%. Gordon says Napoli beat Rangers 3-0 this week. Of course they did. I'm just getting really old, Gordon. Forgive me for that. You're right. It is Ajax they're playing. So, yeah. Do I even wrote Rangers Napoli down? Didn't even realise that. So, yeah, it is Ajax. Rangers then go to St Johnstone next week. St Johnstone picked up a little bit of form. Stevie May scoring goals. Again, potentially could be a hard game for Rangers next week.
Yeah, who's Rangers got, sorry?
They've got St Johnstone next Sunday at 12 o'clock.
Well, St Johnstone are good well, haven't they? So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. And, I mean, I was watching an interview with Liam Gordon. I was I was looking at an article that Liam Gordon did with the written press a few weeks ago, and he was making the point that COVID kind of derailed Josh's momentum a little bit. And I found that very, very interesting. And I think he's got a good point in that aspect as well, because I think COVID did derail Johnson's progress because obviously they had a great season under Carl Davidson winning the back double in terms of the Scottish and the League Cup. And then Wayne Gordon made a very, very good point that article saying that they signed a lot of youngsters and it was hard for them to go to get a cohesion with senior figures. But then Carl Davidson, fair credit to him, because he signed obviously Nicky Clark, he signed Andy Constantine, he signed Ryan McGowan, players that have been around the Scottish Premiership. And for me, I think that was key. And St Johnstone are doing well. And it's not going to be easy to get back for Rangers at all on Sunday. It's going to be interesting to see how they get on because St Johnston's quite a tight park. It's not. Neither of the old firms went to St Johnstone before and they found the game very, very easy. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all entails. I think it'll be similar to today where your Rangers and your Celtics will have to be resolute, they'll have to be resilient, but then go and get the job done. I think it'll be one of those scenarios again. But for Rangers and Celtic, it's about getting a consistency prior to the World Cup started. And then for St Johnstone and all these Warwick sides in the Premiership, it's about trying to get that big result prior to the World Cup that can give you that bit of confidence for when you return.
Yeah, Rich, Scotland. No, we've not. We do these shows every Friday and Sunday, and we also do European games during the week as well. We were never really on Axom. That's mainly a kind of Celtic one. They do theirs every day, but we always do ours on a Friday and Sunday, so we've not ditched it. We were just never on it. We do a completely different show. Also, he says that they're all hard games for Rangers these days. The title's coming back to Celtic Park yet again. If the part of the season that go by, I can't see where the challenge will come from. And to be honest, I've said that already. I do think Celtic will win the league. I think they've got a stronger side. I think there's a bit more about the Celtic team than there is with Rangers. And I just think Celtic have got too much to win this league. I do believe that, even as a Hearts fan. And I do think Celtic will win the league. I'll just as well say the halftime score in Dingwall is Ross County 1, Hearts 2. Woo! Jordan White gave Ross County the lead, but goals from Lawrence Shankland and Andy Halliday have put my beloved Jambles 2-1 up. All the way to go in that game, we can still get beat 3-2. So yeah, that's Rangers and Aberdeen. Let's move on to Tannadice. Dundee United against Motherwell. Motherwell winning by 1-0. The goal from Solheim Johansson. But that is not the biggest talking point. The biggest talking point is Tony Watt getting sent off for 40 minutes. Now, before Dave makes his point, I'm going to say what I think on this because I've seen this. So anyone that's not seen it, Tony Watt goes in for a challenge. His foot looks to be high, but there's no challenge there. He doesn't touch the guy. The guy goes down. John Beaton is actually watching that, right? He's staring right at it. He waves play on. Doesn't give a free kick. He waves play on. He's then asked to go to the monitor. Now, the monitor only shows certain angles to John Beaton, and the one that we see on Sports Scene last night is a still image, which makes it look like Tony Watt, his foot is really high, but it's not. If you run it on, you will see that there's no challenge there. John Beaton gives him the red card. For me, it's a very, very poor decision, and it was wrong. Dave, going to come to you now. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I could pretty much concur with what you're saying. I mean, Liam Fox was... prickly is not the right word. I'm trying to think of a better word here. He was quite stroppy on the post-match interview to Jay Lewis after the game last night. And I can thoroughly understand why he was a little bit stroppy, just because of that basic decision. I mean, it was a decision in which cost United, well, it didn't cost United to win, or didn't cost United all 3 points, but it was a major talking point and a major point in the game where Dundee United was searching for obviously a way back in the game after Motherwell took the lead. A good goal on from Soho, but as you said, it wasn't the main talking point in the game. And I mean, I think a yellow was justified in that situation, but that's where VAR is going to come in. I mean, it points out the most clear and concise observations and decisions, and that's obviously all fine and well because it means there's a bit of a consistency. As people have said, and as Liam Fox has said, he's got a completely different view. He's been given a different camera point where he's seen it differently. Now, one point I'm going to make, and I don't know the whole ins and outs, so I might be horribly wrong when I say this, right? Liam Fox made the point to Jay last night after the game about the fact that the VAR footage is completely different to the footage that he's seen. For me, if that's the case, why is that not getting sent to VAR? Or why is Dundee not making that accessible to VAR and saying to the VAR studio, whether it Clydesdale House or whatever you call it, and saying, right, we've got this footage or we've got this specific bit. What are you thinking? Slow us down. I know it maybe interrupts the flow in terms of the timings or whatever have you, but irrespective, as long as there was a clear, concise decision made on all angles, I don't think we wouldn't even be having this conversation. It'd be Tony Watt getting booked, just to give you an example, and then we'd be speaking about the challenge, but not in great detail as we maybe are this afternoon, just to give you an example. So, in terms of this one, I mean, it was a poor decision, and the length of the ban's going to be an interesting one for me because Dundee have some big games coming up. They've got Celtic on Saturday. They've got Kilmarnock on Wednesday at Tannadice. Now, let's be honest, Kilmarnock's a 6-pointer at this stage of the season because Kilmarnock are improving, but it's an opportunity for Kilmarnock to pull a drift to United. So it's a massive game. And then United go to Derby, which again is a massive game because of the rivalry between the two sides. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see how this all evolves moving forward. But in the grand scheme of things as well, I think that shows where Scottish football's at this precise moment in time. As I said to you earlier on, I think there's going to be times where there's going to be contentious decisions, clarifications needed, technical issues where there's going to be issues that could have been dealt with better. And every manager in the Premiership's understandably going to be frustrated about it because it's costing their side points. It's potentially costing them opportunity to get that extra point in because obviously the financial gulfs between finishing each specific position in the league. So I can understand Liam Fox's frustration, and I've got sympathy for Liam Fox in that regard. And when you look at it, I mean, you just wonder how this will all going to go and evolve moving forward because let's be honest. Yeah, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with this one.
I don't think Sean Goss does himself any favours with the way he goes down. But if you watch it last night, if you watch it on TV as I did again last night, John Beaton at first, he's watching that. He doesn't give a free kick. He doesn't give anything. But then when they show you last night on Sports Scene, they show you the camera angle that he gets. It doesn't show you every angle. It shows you the still. So John Beaton doesn't actually see it run on. So he obviously thinks it's a red card defence. I always say this, but VAR isn't the problem. It's the folk in the room that use it. Now, I think John Beaton's got to see every angle from that yesterday. And if he sees every angle, he doesn't give that as a red card. He sees the still image and he thinks that's a rake down the leg, but it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how this whole thing works, right? But I've seen a tweet this morning from a guy that runs this Georgetown Twitter. Well, he's one of this Georgetown media team members, and he was making a point something along the lines of he had to do a lot of work in reference to VAR, just an aspect of busy, stressful week in terms of getting everything set up and operation for it and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm saying. It must be down to, I don't think it's down to the SPFL or SFA in terms of the technology. They're also in charge of the technology involved. But I think it's the football clubs ultimately that handle all operations when it comes to the footage and all that. So, for example, St Johnstone might have a camera at the top end of the stand. And that might be the only footage St Johnstone have. And let's be honest, that might have been the reason. It might have been a good thing from their point of view in the aspect that maybe why James Brown got turned from a red to a yellow. But at the same time as well, Dundee United probably only had that angle. But I know thoroughly from working at Dundee United and obviously dealing with the club and everything, they've got cameras at all different angles in the park. They've got 5 media team members that they usually have a camera at each side of the park. So I think it's something that Dundee United have to look at more moving forward as far as I'm concerned, because if Dundee United can get a relaxation and an ability to go and obviously help Liam Fox and his proceedings moving forward, it's obviously going to be a good thing. Liam Fox, I need to clarify this. I think he's the youngest manager in the SPFL, in the SPL, Scottish Premiership, sorry. So that just goes to show you how major decisions like that could have a major bearing on a young manager like that.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned him earlier on, Ian Maxwell. Now, before VR came in, Ian Maxwell said that for the first few months, it's going to be horrendous. We're only 2 weeks in, and already we're getting contentious decisions. I mean, and the thing as well, and I mentioned this to Reagan on Friday as well, it's how long these VAR checks take. You look at the game last week for the Hearts Celtic game. The first penalty, that took about 3 minutes. I mean, the VR checks take far too long. It's meant to be clear and obvious. If you're taking 3 minutes for making a decision, then it's not clear and obvious.
Yeah, and I think this is why there's a misunderstanding and a miscommunication about this one. There's advantages, such as what James Brown got yesterday for St Johnstone, because if VAR not been in, James Brown's walking. And then we're all speaking about this in the media and speaking about this on Sports Scene, saying horrendous decisions from the referee. But then at the same time, we're looking at Tony Watt and without VAR and saying, right, fair, we're not even speaking about this, right? There's also, as you say, the Hearts Celtic contentious decisions that happened in those games. Obviously, every decision gets looked at and understandably so. But I think for the goodness of Scottish football and the goodness of the integrity moving forward, I think we've got to be looking at this in a more improved environment. But at the same time, I think the response we'd get from this before that question was asked was, look, you have to show resilience. It's a work in progress. And that's, for me, is not good enough.
100%. Let's get on to the game itself, though. Dundee United obviously lost 1-0. Now, again, the goal is a decent header from Solheim Johansson. Again, I think I heard somebody on the radio, maybe the TV as well, saying that the goalkeeper, Mark Berighetti, should do better. Do you agree with that, or is it just a really good header from Solheim?
A bit of both. I think it is a good header from Solheim, but let's be honest, the goalkeeper was pitiful, wasn't he? I mean, he was in for Eriksson, and I don't know what Eriksson's done wrong in terms of being dropped. I mean, it's obviously good because I think it's obviously good from a United point of view because obviously Brigitti's been brought in from Australia. There's been a lot of complications behind bringing him in with visa and finance and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, what's actually done poorly to be out the United side? And for me, I think that raises a lot of questions. And let's be honest, do we have a? This makes me the question. Before we go back to this specific point, I'm going to go back to the game of it. Is there, apart from Craig Gordon and probably Joe Hart, is there a good goalkeeper in the Premiership that's of that level just now?
In all honesty, no, I don't think there is, to be honest.
Because that's what I'm saying, we're seeing bad decisions every week by goalkeepers just now. Keller Lewis has a few hours yesterday. Remy Matthews, I'm a big fan of Remy Matthews. I think he's a good goalkeeper for St Johnstone. The guy for St Mirren's decent enough, but they maybe get put under the radar a little bit because they're St Johnstone and St Mirren respectively, and I can fully understand that. It's a different aspect though if you're like a Dundee United, because Dundee United is a big club with big expectations, as are Aberdeen of course, but yeah, horrendous goalkeeping obviously leads to Millwall getting that win. And let's be honest, it's a very good point for 3 points for Stevie Hammell's side, but Dundee United, I think it's a recurring pattern for Dundee United, a recurring pattern in the aspect that when they get a bit of positivity, they lean on it, and it's something good and something for them to go and cherish. But at exactly the same time as well, it's obviously another side where when things don't go too well for the club, or when things don't go too well for United, the towel gets chucked in and toys come out the pram. As simple as that. And yeah, you do wonder what's next for Dundee United. And I think the miss of Charlie Mulgrew is bigger than what people are perceiving it to be, because United are all over the place defensively. Dylan Levitt's also a big miss. But I don't think that's an excuse, because the way Tam Clark's played to the way Liam Fox and Jack Ross play is completely different altogether. Now, we also see the news last Monday that Tam Clark's left Budapest Honved. Would he come in and sort that Dundee United side out immediately? I wouldn't say immediately, but I would say instantly would. I think Dundee United would be in the place they're in if Tam Clark's came back in. Would he be widely received by the club? Would it be appreciated and accepted by the club supporters? I don't think it would be, though.
Do you think that's something that Tony Ashgarth would do? I mean, he's given Liam Fox a job, potentially, maybe not a great appointment. Do you think it's something that he would potentially do, is bringing back Tam Courts?
If he panics, he will. I think if he panics, he will. It wouldn't surprise me if he does go and panic, because he panicked with Jack Ross. Now, Jack Ross had to go. There was no question about it. You don't survive a 9-0 crushing with Celtic, and you don't survive a 7-0 obliteration by AZ and Alkmaar at exactly the same time. Because let's be honest, we weren't expecting, after the Alkmaar disarray, we weren't expecting another erratic showing. That's exactly how it turned out to be. Now, would Tony Ashgar go for it? If it meant United were back in the Premiership, it wouldn't surprise me if that was like a Matt McGee solution. Now, I think there's a difference between modern day Tam Clarkson and old school Matt McGee. But at the same time as well, I think if Tony Ashgar had to push the bin out, I think he would bring Tam Clarkson back in.
Yeah, we'll get to Motherwell in a second, but just keeping on United just now, they go to Celtic Park next week. I mean, it doesn't get any easier for Liam Fox. I mean, they will obviously still have that 9-0 hammering from Celtic in their minds from the last time. So, what does Liam Fox do next week against Celtic?
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to see what he says in the press in preparation for that game on Saturday, actually, because I'm pretty sure a lot of the spotlight on the press duties this week will be aligned towards that, and understandably so. And I mean, when you look at this game in question, I mean, it's going to be an interesting one, because Dundee United are still in disarray, in my honest opinion. They've still got a misorganisation about their play, and they're up against a Celtic side that are 3-4. A Celtic side that will be in Madrid on Wednesday, but a Celtic side that are designed to play different kinds of games of football. And this is going to be an interesting one for Celtic in the aspect of let's see what they're all about. Let's see how they can move forward as a result of this, and let's see how they can, let's see how they can be on the front foot and create that decisiveness. Now, Tam Courts was renowned last season for being very vigilant, very fluid, and very much in the front foot when he played the Old Firm. Celtic and Rangers never had an easy game at St Giant last year. Now, if you ask Panis Postecoglou, I wouldn't say it publicly, but if you ask Panis Postecoglou to having a beer, he'd probably say that Dundee game at the start of the season was the easiest game he's probably had as Celtic manager. It was that pitiful from Dundee. It was that deplorable from the club on that day in question. And there's no getting away from it. They were in a bad place, and that's what I'm saying. I think it'd be interesting to see how this all evolves with them moving forward because they're not in a good place just now.
Yeah, in terms of Motherwell, Hamilball has taken Motherwell up to 6th in the league. Now, I think again on Friday I mentioned to Reagan that under Alexander, I couldn't really see a style of play. I couldn't really see what they're trying to do. But I think under Hamill, you're seeing something a little bit different from them just so far this season.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of people think Motherwell's not a good team. I thoroughly disagree with that because they're a good side. They do get a little bit physical, and I think that's what people are kind of relying into. But at the same time, they can play as well. They're good technically. Obviously, they've got Van Veen that will go and be a physical presence in the forward areas for Motherwell. But at the same time, they've got players that can play, and they've got a good defensive organisation about them. And I think Stevie Hamill has. I think he's went through the academy. I think he's went through the management circles very, very well. He's went through the academy. He knows what the academy is all about. He knows what the club inside out. It's like a heart. He knows everything that's in his heart. And he's a little boy through and through. And I don't think Motherwell will be the type of side that will be a European proposition like they were under Graham Alexander, like they were under Stuart McCall, like they were under probably Stephen Robinson as well. I think Motherwell will still be competitive. And I can see Motherwell having some inconsistent weeks or inconsistent periods. But at the same time, I can still see Motherwell having the odd decent result here or there that obviously helps them in terms of their credentials for the upcoming season. And that was a massive win for them yesterday. I mean, let's be honest, Motherwell's got a strict budget that they go and work on every season. And that's obviously noted because they're obviously working at every season. I mean, they've had the same calibre of players for the last sort of 3-4 years. The most money they've probably spent in getting a player is probably William Moult. And when you take all that into consideration, that just goes to show you that Motherwell are heavily reliant on the youth academy, yes, but they're heavily reliant on the fact that they need to use the free agent market as well. But full credit to Stevie Hamill because he's not going away from that, and they're showing the Motherwell that they know they can be hard working, aggressive, on the front foot, and vigilant at the same time.
I mean, even though they were against 10 men, they didn't really create much. They only had 2 attempts on target. But I suppose the big thing for Hamill is that they won the game. And I suppose that's all that matters. They were just getting that 3 points.
Yeah, sometimes you have afternoons like that, to be perfectly honest. I mean, Motherwell have been renowned for. I think that's why Motherwell are so good defensively, because Motherwell have had a few afternoons like that where they've not had as much chances, but the fact they've not had as much chances in games is obviously a very good thing because obviously it's allowed them and the dignity to go and build from the front, so to speak, because they've been so good at the back. It means they don't need to have a lot of chances, but whenever they don't have a lot of chances, they could still get a go at it somewhere. It reminds me a bit of St Johnstone, where they don't have a lot of good forward play, but what they do have is they have a good base where they can still go and score goals. And the fact that they're using set pieces to their degree is a good one from a Motherwell point of view, something that they can go and learn from moving forward. So, in terms of Motherwell, a good 3 points for them, and that shows they can show a little bit of resilience and character. And I think yesterday was about resilience and character, and showing that they had a bit of a good mentality about them to go and get a result of that magnitude.
Motherwell are only 4 points off third place. Is it unrealistic to suggest that Motherwell could potentially get third or fourth this season?
I think a lot of that depends on how consistency goes, primarily from January to March, because we've seen how last season how Motherwell had a very, very strong start to the season and then faded away. And it was because of that fine start to the season where it was the defining factor between Motherwell getting European football, not getting European football. Had Motherwell not had a strong start to last season, Motherwell would have quite simply been a bottom six team. So that I still think Motherwell have a bit of convincing to do to a lot of people. But I mean, Motherwell will never go away from their identity. They've got a strong, strong identity, not just on the park, but off the park as well. They're very, very good off the park in terms of what they do. And that kind of evolves on the park. And that's why Motherwell are in a strong, strong position. So from that point of view, they're obviously going to kick on from that. They're going to be in a stronger position because of that. And they're obviously going to win a lot. Aspect of, they're in a really, really strong place and one may that continue. And if they can continue conjuring results such as that, then they'll be in a really, really strong place moving forward, because if they can get things right defensively, they're always going to score goals somewhere. So one may that continue. I think that's a good identity to have from a Motherwell point of view.
Just the last bit on Dundee United, they're obviously sitting last place at the moment. They've only got 9 points. If you're a Dundee United fan at the moment, I think you've got to be potentially worried that United could be relegated. I mean, I don't know where they go from here, but is there going to be a massive worry amongst Liam Fox and United that this is going to be a bit too much for them?
Yeah, there's always that worry. And let's be honest, well, this afternoon, I don't know if you noticed this, Kim, but this afternoon, depending on what happens in Dingwall, has a massive say what happens come tonight, because if Hearts win by 2 clear goals, Dundee United are off the bottom. Well, if it stays 2-1 Hearts, such as what it is at the moment, providing there's been no changes in the last 10 minutes.
No, still 2-1. Still 2-1.
Yeah, well, Dundee United will still be bottom. That's how there's a massive difference with that just now. But yeah, I think United fans have been fearing the worst regarding Liam Fox. I mean, he's got Stephen Glass parallels for me. United went for the cheap option. I mean, let's be honest. I think Tony Armstrong was in a no-win situation when they appointed Liam Fox, because do you go for experience and it means potential repercussions if things don't go well, or do you go for a young manager that's not going to cost you a lot of money? It was an approach that worked well for United under Tam Courts, because Tam Courts, despite the fact that he was within the club environment, was a manager that had a young shoulder on him. He had a young head on him, and that was his big job. I mean, PE teacher vibes. I think Liam Fox is PE teacher vibes about the way he works, just because he's a good coach. A coach and a manager is two completely different things, and that's the thing. Your first job in management is so vital. Get it wrong, you're going to find yourself either coaching in management setups, or you're going to find yourself managing in week 1 or week 2 in Scotland. If you do well, that's when the door's open to either go to England or go get a bigger job in Scottish football, or indeed getting some sort of continuity management for yourself, and that can obviously be a good thing. So that first job is so vital. You see, there's been various examples of that in the past. I won't go into it, but you look at Alloa in terms of they've fielded, like I said, Paul Hartley and Jim Goodwin, Jack Ross, and they've obviously gotten good management opportunities as a result of that. And that's the thing. It's a massive job for Liam Fox in terms of retrieving his management credentials and making sure that he can put himself in the management spotlight. Now, he was trying to basically obliterate my question when I asked him, "Are you ready for management?" Because he said he was, but I don't think he is. I don't think he's ready to be a manager yet.
Yeah, and that's kind of shown a little bit disappointing for Dundee United, but certainly not disappointing for Hibernian, who at Easter Road defeated St Mirren by 3-0. Goals from Kucherevsky, who had an offside goal after 6 minutes, a Martin Boyle penalty after 45 minutes, and a goal from Ewan Henderson after 67 minutes. Now, St Mirren have been going well, but Hibs were very, very good yesterday. I watched the highlights of this game, and they played very well.
I mean, the fact that Hibs had a VAR goal that chalked off, and the fact that they were still dominant after that, just goes to show you how good an afternoon it was for Hibs. But ultimately disappointed with St Mirren, but we'll get on to St Mirren in just a wee while or two. For Hibs to start all things off, let's not forget here, they were coming to this game off of 3 straight defeats. 3 straight defeats, and they've broken out and gone, we could do a lot better here. And let's be honest, they've responded in the right manner. It was a very, very good shot from Hibs, and I think Hibs will be a side that will continue to go on their radar a little bit, because they're a side that aren't expected to do well under Lee Johnson. They're a side that have a bit of that are changing a bit of an identity, and that's shown by the players he's bringing in. But also, I think Lee Johnson's a manager that gets undermined a little bit, if that's a right word to use, because if you look at it, right, a lot of people look at Jack Ross because he's Scottish and because he's done well in Scottish football. Lee Johnson didn't exactly get a lot of success down in England. But what he did was he had managers that were competitive. He had teams that were competitive, and he's got Hibs competitive here. They had a disappointing last few weeks, but I think that's because of a range of permutations that I'll go into. But yeah, it was a very good showing yesterday. And I was going to say, on the side, I had been well showing form. They've been well showing really, really good in the last few weeks, and that was a good thing from us, a point of view. But they can look at that so they go, we were a little bit disappointed. And they've got a massive game on Saturday now at Ross County, but we'll concentrate on Hibs for the time being. And yeah, when you look at Hibs, they've got to make home advantage count. That's exactly what they did yesterday. The fact that they got a variety of scorers, the fact that they got a variety of interchanges of play, will be is only a good thing for Hibs, and they can obviously move on from this moving forward.
I've got to say, I was quite impressed with Kucherevsky last night. I thought his movement was really good, linked the play up well, he took his goal well. You know, I mentioned before about the fact that I think they missed Kevin Nisbet, but I've got to say, I did think Kucherevsky was very impressive yesterday.
Yeah, he's a player that not a lot of people take a lot of notice of, especially myself, because we all look at like some Martin Boyle and all that and go, right, well, we're going to pinpoint him, we're going to look at him more often. But I think it's a good thing for Kucherevsky because it allows him to go and concentrate his own game. A lot of people will look at Martin Boyle and obviously look at this, that, and the next thing. But a lot of people don't look at the fine work that he puts in on a consistent basis. And that could only be a good thing for him moving forward, because if they can have that level of performance and obviously means they can get more wins in the ball, that could only be a good thing from a Hibs point of view. And as I'm saying to you, Graham, I don't think Hibs are getting the results what they're getting this season last year. I don't think they're beating St Mirren in the manner that they are last year. I don't think they got to Ross County, for example, winning the manner that they did. I don't think they drove at Aberdeen. Let's be honest, I think the Scottish Premiership's got better this year. But Hibs have gotten better as well. And I think last year was just a complete write-off for the club. And they're bouncing back in the strongest manner possible. I mean, they're all obviously going to be setbacks, but at exactly the same time as well, I think they're showing how good they can be. It's about being more consistent moving forward. It's about making sure the 6-1s at the Celtic don't happen again. It's about making sure they can beat the St Mirrens who are rising above their weight. And it's about making sure they can be consistent against sides such as St Mirren.
Yeah, I mean, what impressed me about Kucherevsky's second goal was his strength. You know, I think he was on 21. And the way he just kind of fobbed the guy off and just went, get away, this is my ball. And it was a very composed finish. It was very good play from Kucherevsky. And just all through the game, I thought Hibs was a real threat. I think St Mirren had a couple of chances, Curtis made second half, but Hibs really were very dominant. And I think they're sitting third at the moment. That probably has to be a catalyst for Lee Johnson now. They've got a very difficult game at Pittodrie next weekend. That is going to be a huge game for Hibs as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And for me, I think it kind of defines where both teams are going to be at. I mean, it defines where Hibs are at this precise moment in time, because our Hibs in a good position, 100% there, but Lee Johnson will always strive for improvement. And it's exactly the same for Aberdeen. I think it's an interesting one to see how they deal with home advantage. I mean, it was it's a decent enough game at the start of the season. They caught a subsequent fixture at Easter Road. I think it was an interesting game. But obviously, the football kind of got put to one side because of the Ryan Porteous, Jim Goodwin dig, which, don't get me wrong, I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves on Friday. Now, I'm expecting Jim Goodwin to not be in the dugout for that game in question because he's got his hearing this week, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not expecting him to be in the dugout for that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that all evolves.
Obviously, I've not been on recently. Everyone knows I've been away for a while, but I just want to get your thoughts on something. Now, obviously, touching on that Hibs Celtic game a couple of weeks ago, Lee Johnson said after that game that the Hibs players should be going into that Celtic dressing room and asking, what do you do? You know, how are you winning like this? What's your diet like? What are you doing differently? Was that the right thing for Johnson to have said?
I wouldn't have mentioned it publicly. I'd have said similar, but I wouldn't have said it in that tone, in that dialogue. I'd have said things. I mean, you can, as a manager, if you're a manager with the Old Firm, you can't control what they're doing because they're obviously doing things they've got far more resources to what you have. But I think he's right in the range of factors you mentioned there. Diet being one of them. Watch in terms of watching what you're having and all that. I mean, I seen a few Aberdeen players out in town last night. I'm pretty sure. Now, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but I can spend my Sunday eating chicken and rice the whole day after a night out on the Saturday. So I'm interested to see how that one evolves. Also, I think the way you look after yourself in terms of gym, doing extra stuff in the training ground is a massive thing as well. Do they do that? We don't obviously know that. But obviously, Lee Johnson knows the players more than we do. And maybe he's taking some points such as, are the players doing enough in training? And I think that's maybe what he's trying to get across to people here.
Yeah, 100%. Looking at St Mirren, disappointing result, but they've had a good season so far. They're sitting fifth. I mean, what do you think that Stephen Robinson will take out of that game yesterday?
I think he'll take the fact that they've still got a long way to go. But that was the case at Motherwell. They were never consistent at Motherwell. There were always wee mazes in which they had to go across in order to get the results that they always cherished and desired. And I think from a Motherwell point of view, they'll be looking at this. From a point of view, they'll be looking at this and saying, we can go and learn from this. I mean, I think they've got a decent enough return. Partly prior to the World Cup because they've got Ross County away on Saturday, they've got St Johnstone on Wednesday. Two massively winnable games, which if they can win that sets St Mirren a bit of a precedence between them and the rest of the clubs in the league. And I think it'll be a strong statement for the Buddies to go and make. So I think it's a big week for St Mirren coming up. Yesterday will be disappointing, but at the same time, move on from it. Show what you're capable of, and show that you're a type of side that can battle back from adversity, battle back from some bad results. And if they can do that, they're in a really, really strong position. So yesterday's match was disappointing for St Mirren, but they can go and bounce back in the right manner, and that's by getting a result on Saturday.
I mean, given how poorly St Mirren had started the season, we all know they had a really poor Premier Sports Cup campaign. Are you surprised that they have done as well as they've done so far?
Not really, no. Yeah, I'm surprised they've bounced back in such a manner that they have, because they've been at places such as Aberdeen and they've played teams where, let's be honest, they just have. And St Mirren have bounced back in the best manner possible with some fantastic results. I think the Celtic win for me, Paisley, was a huge springboard for St Mirren. That gave St Mirren a bit of momentum, and it gave St Mirren a bit of a confidence, just knowing, look, we can do well here. We can be competitive in this league. People are tipping us to go straight back down. People are tipping us to go straight back down because people don't know what we actually have within the squad. Alex Greaves been a top signing for St Mirren. Jim Goodwin ultimately signed him in January, but he's been a top signing. And I think St Mirren have gone back to being a balanced team. St Mirren under Goodwin was renowned for being good and astute defensively, but a lot of forward-thinking players, which ultimately left them with various gaps across the park. And I think that's the same at Aberdeen. I think there's a bit of a balance under Stephen Robinson again. Sometimes it might look boring, but the other side as well, there is times where there'll be times where St Mirren will get goals and get good contributions in that game. So that's only going to be a good thing from their own point of view.
Just last thing on the Hibs. I mean, obviously they're sitting third in the league just now. We've got the break coming up. Do you think it's really important that Hibs maintain this form going into this break?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's an important one from a St Mirren point of view where, Hibs point of view, I'll lose concentration here, where they can go and get some good results in prior to the World Cup break. And if they can do that, the Hibs will be in a strong position. Because, I mean, let's be honest, Hearts are slowly bouncing back. But if Hibs can get a bit of momentum from now to the World Cup, it can only be a good thing from their point of view in terms of getting momentum, getting some wins on the board, put pressure on opposition, putting pressure on rivalries. And if they can get the results, it obviously puts them in a strong position moving forward in terms of getting a little bit of a leeway between them and the opposing sides. Because let's be honest, a lot of people were tipping Hibs to be a bottom six side this year, especially when the way the Premier Sports Cup prevailed for them. So Hibs are in a good place now and will make continue. I'll be back in a minute. I'm just waiting to get some juice.
No worries. I'm just kind of watching the Hearts game in the background here. It looked like Hearts are going 3-1 up, but it's been given as offside. Now I've just seen that back, and I'm not convinced that's offside. I'll be honest. I think he looks onside there. I'll be honest, and I'm not saying this to be biased. I think he looks onside. It's Lawrence Shanklin that's been ruled offside. The referee's having a look. VAR's having a look. I don't know if this is going to be ruled off or not, because I think he looked onside for me. Just want to see what the referee gives here. He's given it as offside. I'm not convinced that's offside. I genuinely think Shanklin's onside, and I think that's a wrong decision for me. But it's still Ross County 1, Hearts 2. Goals from Andy Halliday and Lawrence Shanklin, cancelling out Jordan White's goal. Still 2-1 after 66 minutes. So, a big win for Hibs yesterday, winning by 3-0 against a St Mirren side who have been doing really well. Let's move on to the final game from yesterday, which was the game at McDermott Park between St Johnstone and Kilmarnock. St Johnstone winning by 1-0. A bit of a reformed St Johnstone. They're now sitting 7th on 16 points. And I think they probably deserve to win the game. It wasn't a great game, let's be honest. I don't think Kilmarnock offered enough. We'll get to the VR decision very shortly. But the goal was given as an Ash Taylor own goal after Stevie May's shot was deflected. I think that's harsh. I'd give it to Stevie May. Players the shot, I'd give it to the guy that has the shot. But, Stevie May's been really good. And I think they mentioned on Sportscene again last night that they think that Stevie May's been helped with the fact that Nicky Clark's there. And I agree. I think Nicky Clark's been a really good signing for St Johnstone. He's got that experience. He leads the line really well. And he's got that bit of imagination as well. So I think Nicky Clark's been a really good signing. And I think, for me, St Johnstone, I worried at the start of the season. I did. I thought that St Johnstone could be relegated. I'm going to say I don't think they will be now. I think they'll be fine. I don't think they'll be top 6, but I think they'll be fine. But that was a huge win for St Johnstone. There wasn't a great game. I'll be honest. I'm just talking about the St Johnstone game here, Dave. St Johnstone won by 1 goal. It wasn't a great game of football, but I think Stevie May's shot deflected off Ash Taylor, and it's another big win for St Johnstone.
Yeah, definitely offside in the Hearts game. Yeah,
it was given as offside, but I'll be honest, I don't think it was. I don't think he's offside. I've seen it again. I don't think he's offside.
Yeah, I just seen Gordon McIntosh's comment there just now. Anyway, yeah, no, fantastic win for St Johnstone yesterday. As I said earlier on, I think St Johnstone just lacked a bit of creativity and lacked a good cohesion about them last year. I think the fact that Carl Davis has changed a few things in terms of players coming in and freshening up the team and letting players go and bringing Liam Craiger as a coach that's familiar with the players has always been a good thing for St Johnstone. And what a fantastic victory from yesterday. I don't think they won that game last season. I don't think they win that game. I think Kilmarnock will win that game, irrespective of Kilmarnock's predicaments that they faced last season as well. I don't think St Johnstone won that game last year, which goes to show you how St Johnstone are in a very, very strong place right now. You touched on Motherwell being 4 points off third. I think St Johnstone are 4 points off third as well, which means they're in a strong, strong position. I think the Hibs wins gave them a lot of momentum. I think it's a fantastic springboard for St Johnstone to go and have. And let's be honest, I think, well, if you take the Rangers game out of the equation on Sunday, which I don't think they can be defined on, they've got Mirren and they've got Motherwell, two massively winnable games. And this is what I'm saying here again. I think the next three games for, not for St Johnstone, but across the whole Premiership, gives us a good indication of how this is going to look after Christmas, or sorry, before Christmas and then moving forward, because we're seeing a lot of teams that are punching well above their weight, but at the same time, it can only be a good thing for Scottish people that teams are providing competition and pushing well above their weight. And I think it can only be a good thing that we're seeing competition right across the league. So we'll be that continue, of course. And if we can see that on a more consistent basis, then it can only be a good thing. I mean, from a St Johnstone point of view, fantastic one. Real good goal. They did everything about it to go and get the win. They had to be resilient a few times, such as that all-the-way goal for Kilmarnock, which I can see where Dell's coming from, because goalkeepers do get too much protection, but I think it is a foul on the goalie, or looks a foul on the goalie from the television footage. But good win for St Johnstone, something for them to go and build on.
In terms of St Johnstone, Stevie May seems to have a new lease of life. And I've just mentioned there that it's the fact Nicky Clark is coming. And I think he's taken a lot of pressure off Stevie May. And Stevie May looks like a completely different player now.
Yeah, you've seen that identity when Nicky Clark was at Dundee United as well, where he helped the likes of Tony Watt, where he helped the likes of other strikers in the team. No, you see what he provided to Dundee United. And when he joined St Johnstone, I thought it was an astute signing from St Johnstone. Astute in this aspect of it was good to see where they were at, to see how they were going to evolve, and see how they were going to obviously be a more front-thinking side. And they've done exactly all that. And they can only be a good thing for St Johnstone moving forward. And I mean, yeah, they're in a strong position right now. And long may that continue for Carl Davidson's side, because I like Carl Davidson. I think he's done a lot for St Johnstone, both as a player and a manager. And maybe they were a little bit disappointed last season. But if you can be honest here, Graham, and I want your honest opinion on this, and I'll give you my honest opinion on this as well. If you take the double winning season, if they finish top 6 this year, and in the last season, I think Carl Davidson's only had 4 bad months in what we're going to say here, just under 36 months or 3 years as St Johnstone manager. I think he's only had 4 bad months as St Johnstone manager, considering how they just curtailed off last season in the way that they did. I think, well, let's be honest, it was a lifeline, beating Cali in the playoffs. But for me, he's only had 1 bad season, especially if he finishes in the top 6 this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, he obviously won that cup double. Everyone knows how well they did. They had the European games where McDermott Park was packed out, and they have had a disappointing spell. And I thought it was very harsh at folks saying that, Davidson should be sacked given what he's done. And I think you're right. They have had a poor few months, but they've really lifted themselves up. And as you say, they're only 4 points off third place. It's been a great turnaround. But I think we have to, again, go back to VAR. Now, again, this could have changed the game. Jason Brown is given a red card by Craig Napier, the referee, at first. The referee is then asked to go and look at it, and he rescinds the decision. Now, again, I think it's the wrong decision. I think he's late. I think he's high. And I think the referee should have stuck with that decision of a red card.
Yeah, probably. But at the same time, I can understand why he's changed his decision. But then that's the thing as well. I think it kind of sets a precedence for the referee's point of view, because you're often renowned whenever you're called to the monitor that you're going to stick by your decisions. The fact that he's changed his decisions means there's a bit of a precedence in terms of both sides, and I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. So it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be an interesting one to see how this all evolves. But I just stuck with the decision. 100%, I do agree. And I think James Brown's been got an awful one with one white way there.
And in terms of the disallowed goal that Kilmarnock got, it's actually not been given for the foul on the goalkeeper. It's been given for a foul on Stevie May, which again...
Okay. I didn't realise that, sorry.
Yeah, there was a apparently a push at the front post in Stevie May, but again, I've watched it a few times. I think it's very soft. I think that I can see why Derek McInnes is frustrated because, again, I think the goal should stand.
Yeah. And I might be horribly wrong here, but I don't think it even needed a VAR clarification or verification either, which I find extremely disappointing. And Derek McInnes has every right to be frustrated because that could have been a big point for Kilmarnock, especially wanting to go a point clearer, sort of projected in Ross County. So that because there's every right to be frustrated. I think Kilmarnock put a lot into the game yesterday, and will be disappointed not to come away with anything out of it. But I mean, Kilmarnock are a side that for me are going to be consistent this season. Not because it's a good manager, but there was a lot of people saying that Kilmarnock were going to be European spots because of how Derek McInnes does in European football, or did Aberdeen, pardon me. I disagree with that because I don't think Kilmarnock are ready to be challenging for European football yet. And I think yesterday kind of shows that because as much as I think Kilmarnock will be safe, I don't think Kilmarnock will be in the top 6. And I don't think Kilmarnock will be in the bottom 2. But I think Kilmarnock will be the best rest in the middle of the park, middle of the table, sorry. And I think this epitomises that Kilmarnock still have a lot of work to do.
In terms of St Johnstone, they obviously played Celtic a couple of weeks ago. They were very unfortunate to lose that goal in the last minute. They now play Rangers next week at home. I mean, if you're Callum Davidson, what are you hoping from that game?
I'm hoping to get at least a positive result out of the game. I mean, St Johnstone, once again, will go under the radar. And like I touched upon with the Livingston Celtic game today, I think it's one of those games that people look at and say, a lot of people will think Rangers will be resolute, be dogged, but then be resilient, but then get the job done. For St Johnstone, they've had some good moments against Rangers in the past. Zander Clark header at the goal to save the Scottish Cup. That was brilliant. Stevie Milne scored a double against the Ibrox in 2008. And then they've had some very, very good results against Rangers at McDermott Park as well. And I think that's the thing. I think the fact that St Johnstone can be so competitive against Rangers could only be a good thing from their point of view. If they can do that, brilliant. Something for them to obviously go and build on, and something that they can go and build on going to the World Cup break. And I think it's a massive game for both clubs. As I say, I don't think Sunday will define St Johnstone, but if St Johnstone can go and get a result of some kind against Rangers, it obviously puts them in a strong position to go and challenge for more moving forward. And hopefully that is the case, and they can go and get some positive results under their belt. And obviously it helps in terms of moving forward and challenging for the top 6.
In terms of next week, Kilmarnock play Livingston at home. Now, Kilmarnock have had a bit of a kind of resurgence apart from yesterday. And one of the main reasons for that has been Daniel Armstrong. He's been excellent. Now, you've got to imagine that at home against Livingston, that's a game that McInnes has got to be looking to pick up 3 points from.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Livingston are a bit erratic just now. I mean, Livingston are a good side. And you always get that with Livingston, don't you? Livingston are always a side that are inconsistent. And I think it's a good bit of interesting one next weekend because you've got a Kilmarnock side that are good at Rugby Park. But you've got a Livingston side that are decent enough within their own right. I don't think Livingston, well, I see a thing here from the Herald actually. The woman, Martindale was a little bit frustrated with the goals they conceded. I'll try to get some quotes for you here actually, but Martindale was a little bit frustrated with the goals they conceded today. And that just goes to show you how Livingston have set standards and want to maintain those standards. And I mean, if they can build on from a poor show today and turn it into a win next week, it can only be a good thing from a Livingston point of view. Yeah, well, David Martindale, the most Celtic goals, Livingston manager eyes opposition bench with envy. Now, I like what Martindale said about Ange Postecoglou in the papers today. He did say that he felt that he did feel that Ange Postecoglou was a future English Premier League manager. I do agree with him. I actually do agree with Martindale. But David Martindale says that the strength of Silk substitutes bench highlights just how much his team were up against it. No feel on the loss to the champions, but the Livingston manager was still frustrated at the manner of the goals. His men conceded at the Tony McIlroy Arena. And obviously it's a paid subscription, so I can't exactly give you everything. But yeah, I mean, that just goes to show you how interesting the game it's going to be next week between Kilmarnock and Livingston. You've got two managers that have set high standards about their teams, and it's going to be a very entertaining game, I think.
David Martindale's made a point. I listened to him earlier on, and he made a point which I think is actually quite relevant. He talks about the fact that Celtic and Rangers always talk about the fact that they're playing against teams in Europe that have got more money and they've got better players. And Martindale basically said Celtic and Rangers have to remember that when they play teams in Scotland. You know, that's what we've got to deal with. Do you think he's kind of got a valid point in that?
Well, I read an article in The Athletic through Jordan Campbell, fantastic piece, by the way. Livingston's annual budget is the same price as basically James Tavernier's annual wage, is it not? I'm pretty sure I read something about that, which goes to show you that whenever Livingston get a result such as what they did at Ibrox last Saturday, and get a result where Rangers were just torturous and all over the place, it goes to show you that whenever you get these bad performances, or whenever you get these good performances, it gets highlighted a lot more. And whenever Livingston do pick up draws such as what they did at Ibrox and how they could be bemoaning the quality of goals that they're conceding, it goes to show you how Livingston, you think there's a far bigger resource pool for them to pull from when it's completely the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of rounds up our weekend fixtures today. At the moment, it's still, with 10 minutes to go, it's still Ross County 1, Hearts 2. And I will say it's actually quite end to end at the moment. Hearts attacking just now. I mean, this is a big game for both teams. Ross County need the points for a different reason. They're trying to fight off relegation. Hearts need the points because in the league, we've not been great. So this last 10 minutes is really big for both clubs.
Yeah, I was just having a look at the league table just now. Ross County, unless they pull one back and get that equaliser, will go bottom tonight, which could be massive for like a Dundee United, just to give you an example. Before Hearts have been a really good victory, considering they would go into sixth. And that's the big question for me. Do Hibs fade away? Do St Mirren fade away? That's a big question for me. I think Aberdeen have enough about them. But the thing is that the big question for me is, can Hibs be consistent? The reason why I pinpoint Hibs here is because Hibs are the type of club that you don't know what you're going to get because of how last season evolved for them. And I mean, if Hearts can go to Dingwall and get a win, it's massive. I was speaking to a journalist a couple of weeks ago, and he says Ross County were all over the place. It could have easily been 6-9, 5-0 Hibs that day. I knew he was laughing at me when he said that, but that just goes to show you how poor Ross County all the way have been. I mean, I've made a point to loads of people about Ross County Group where I made the point about I was seeing them at Buckhead pre-season, and I didn't think there was much wrong about them. I just felt they lacked a little bit of cohesion, and I felt it was the same story as what they had this time last season, where they needed to wait ages for a win, but they've got that win now. It's just been a fact that Ross County just have been all over the place. The thing for me is, I don't think I made the point in this show. I can't remember what day it was. I think Malky Mackay's got to be under pressure because I think Malky's got to be under pressure in the aspect of the Ross County and Lloyd McGregor's employed managers in the past, and they've had results and performances where it's not gone their way, and managers have gone for far less than what Malky Mackay's went for. I think sixth place for Ross County last season has kind of bought him a bit of time, but at exactly the same time as well. I mean, will Ross County make a change? I don't think they'll make one until Christmas or World Cup time, because Ross County are a club that makes rash decisions. Ross County, especially in the management front, usually have a manager around 2 or 3 days after a manager goes. And there must be enough in Malky Mackay to suggest that Ross County are happy with the work he's doing. But for Hearts, if they can hold on, fantastic win.
Yeah, Hearts go to Istanbul on Thursday for the last Conference League game against Istanbul Besiktas here. Obviously, we can't qualify, but I've said this before, any win gets you about £436,000. Hearts have obviously won both games against RFS. In terms of Hearts going into this game on Thursday, I mean, you're Robin Nielsen. The one thing you don't want is any more injuries.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with Hearts having a big game against Motherwell on Sunday, which for me could be decisive in terms of how the season evolves because Motherwell are in a similar position to Hearts right now. I think it's a massive game for Hearts this season. That next Sunday when they play Motherwell. I don't know how Hearts have after that, but they've got Rangers, I think, haven't they? So that's obviously going to be a tough one. So I think Hearts are under a lot of pressure to go get some wins. And then if not, the nice will settle way out against Robbie Nelson, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just checking this. It's 5 minutes to go. It's still Ross County 1, Hearts 2. Ross County trying to pile the pressure on, but still 2-1 to Hearts. Now, I'm just going to give you the latest scores from the SWPL. So I had said earlier on that the final scores in a couple of the games were Aberdeen 2, Glasgow 0, and Spartans 1, Hamilton 2. The latest scores are Hearts 1, Motherwell 0, Hibs 0, Partick Thistle 0, Rangers 3, Dundee United 0, and the really big game, Glasgow City 0, Celtic 0 after half an hour. Now, I was speaking to somebody earlier on about the women's game because her daughter plays women's football. Now, we're looking at the league table, right? Now, there's 9 games played. Rangers are top with 45 goals, conceded none. They're on 27 points. Celtic are on 43 goals. They've got 25 points. And Glasgow City are on 34 goals, conceded 1 after 25 games, and they've played 9 games. Now, I spoke to one of the women about this and said, why do you think the women's game, why do you think these 3 teams are dominating as they are? And she said the one word that I think you've mentioned in the show as well, money.
Yeah, but I felt Rachel Kloss hit the nail on the head in her article in the Press and Journal yesterday. Spartans won at Celtic last week, and I think that's a huge result for Spartans in terms of their ability and their ambitions to go win a cup. But ultimately, it's a massive result for Scottish women's football that because it's massive in the and Rachel Kloss touched on this. It's massive in the aspect that it allows the part-time teams or non-professional teams to go to a full-time opposition side and get a result. I mean, I'll go around all the games. Good result for Aberdeen. Aberdeen needed that win today. I mean, still not convincing for me as far as Aberdeen are concerned. But I think it shows because Aberdeen is such a young team this year in the women's game. It's really for Aberdeen to get a win because the game is a bit tawdry this afternoon. And I haven't really read anything on the game because obviously I was in my bed and enjoying supporting Winks. And then I was also on with yourself. But I hope they got a good crowd today. And hopefully the fans enjoyed it. But hopefully they got a good win. And that was what was most pleasing from an Aberdeen point of view. Obviously, that's a good win for Hamilton at Spartans because, as I said, Spartans got a lot of points from that result at Celtic last week. But Hamilton, this is a fantastic win. Hamilton continue going under the radar for me. They're going to be inconsistent, but Hamilton are nowhere near the side they were last season when they were languishing at the table. And luckily, the introduction of a couple of extra teams meant they were able to stay in the league. Rangers currently 3-0, but I think against Dundee United, that's going to be a tough this afternoon. So I'm not surprised at that one. And obviously, Glasgow City 0, Celtic 0. I think I'll watch the second half after this because I think it's an Alba. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that one evolves.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, I said this to one of the girls actually, that you're looking at some of the scores, and like Glasgow City, Celtic, Rangers, and hammering teams like 8-0, 9-0. And it just kind of shows that they just are so dominant.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a tale of permutations to this. Rangers. I listened to a podcast that Rangers have an average wage of $1 million for the women's programme, which is far, far higher than what everybody else in the league can pay, which is massive. Celtic don't pay as much, but what Celtic do have is a good manager in Fran Alonso. What a fantastic manager he is. For me, he should be in the men's game. He should thoroughly be in the men's game. He's been linked by a lot of people with men's jobs in the Scottish game, which goes to show you the job he's doing at Celtic right now. Bucky Thompson's just as good as a manager, and obviously he's got good players to go work with, and good resources to go work with as well. Glasgow City are beginning to strike a chord with me. Alan Grayson's doing a reasonable enough job. And I think this afternoon is a good indication of where both Glasgow City and Celtic are going to be. And that's what I'm saying. But That top three is a mini league. It always has been, it always will be. Hibs were usually in that bracket as well. But I think Hibs have quickly switched away now. I'm not saying for 1 minute Hibs are a bad side, but Hibs are the type of side that you look at and go and say to yourself, done transition period, they still are, and that transition period is far from done. Pardon me, the rest of the weeks, the 4th to 12th in terms of who can finish best of the rest, because a lot of people are expecting Aberdeen, but Aberdeen have faded away because they've lost a few senior players. Hearts are doing really, really well, and the Hearts are a lot of people's predictions to finish 4th. If Hearts can finish 4th, that's tremendous.
Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, Eva Olad's a very, very good manager. A disappointing season last season, but we've actually picked up really well this season. We're still 1-0 up at the moment, so things are looking decent for Hearts. Going at the last minute or so in Dingwall, it is still Ross County 1, Hearts 2. County try to pile on the pressure a little bit, but Hearts seeing the game out reasonably well. Had a couple of decent chances in the break as well. So it's still 2-1 to Hearts with just about 4 minutes to go. We've got 10 minutes left. Thank you everyone again for watching, and thank you everyone again for the comments. I just want to finish this last 10 minutes on probably the best league for me, the Championship. I mean, what a league this is. You have got the games from this weekend on Friday: Morton 4, Inverness 0, Queen's Park 2, Dundee 2. And then yesterday we had Arbroath 0, the league leaders Ayr United 2. An incredible game between Hamilton and Cove Rangers. Cove Rangers were 4-1 up, and Hamilton came back to draw 4-4. And then Wraith 3, Partick 0. Now I'm looking at the league table, and Ayr United in top are 7 points ahead of Wraith, who are in 7th. Dave, this Championship is absolutely brilliant.
100%, it's brilliant. I'll start with Morton on Friday night because I thought they were fantastic against Cali. I wasn't surprised Morton won. And by the way, Effie Ambrose was eligible to play, irrespective of what people think. I find that whole story a bit funny, to be honest. I thought Cali were poor goalkeeping. The fact that Billy Dodds just came out on telly after the game and says the reason why Mark Rangers got taken off at half time is a private matter suggests to me as although there was a falling out between the two of them, because you take off a goalkeeper for being rubbish, but if he's saying private matter, it sounds to me as although there's something far more fishy than what there was. So yeah, that's one to keep an eye on moving forward. But Morton, I was making a point to people about this. Morton don't have the biggest budget in the Championship, but what Morton has is a good organisation, a good togetherness, a good collaboration about each other. They're a really strong unit, and they've obviously got some good players that can go and play as well. So Morton are in a really, really strong place just now, and long may that continue for them. But yeah, when you look at the other scores, Queen's Park 2, Dundee 2, nice out for Gary Boyer. Now, I haven't read much into it, but I've seen Dundee this season, and I thought they were incredibly poor at Arbroath. Let's be honest, was I expecting Dundee to do well this year? I wasn't. I genuinely think that. I didn't think Dundee were going to do well this year. Gary Boyer's now on a worse points total than James Pate was 2 seasons ago. And James Pate wasn't well appreciated by Dundee fans so much, I felt. A lot of Dundee fans didn't like Pate's approach to the Championship. And yeah, it's an interesting one in that regard. But at the same time, it's a good point for Queen's Park. Ayr and Queen's Park I'm not surprised, after seeing that Ayr yesterday, I'll get to Ayr in a minute. I'm not surprised they're doing as well as they are. Queen's Park are probably the best side I've seen at Gayfield this year. Ayr United, strong side as well. Ayr, good win for them yesterday. I've said to people, I don't think they were excellent, but they didn't have to get out of the second gear in order to get a win yesterday. Josh Millen, Brad Young, and Deepo Akinyemi, brilliant. They work very good as a collective front three. Really good midfield. Boy Dempsey, I like the boy Dempsey. The boy that came on, Jaden Mitchell-Lawson, brilliant player. Obviously won the penalty, and then a brilliant goal for the second, which I've yet to watch back, but when I do watch back, I'm pretty sure I see a good goal in there. And then very, very good defensively. I like the boy Sean McGinty. I think he's a good centre half. But my frustration is with Arbroath. not because I'm obviously a Brough fan. I've got a lot of respect for Brough considering I cover him on a regular basis, but for me, it's too predictive. And this is where a Brough are going wrong just now. It's pass, 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 ball to the box, cleared, pass, pass, pass. Far too predictive. And I'll be honest with you, Scott Allen got in a lot of a Brough fans' nerves yesterday because he gives the ball away far too much. So there's that. Rafe Rovers, what a win for them. But by the way, Partick have capitulated.
That's four defeats on the bounce for Partick Thistle, and they started off really well this season.
What do you think about Ian McCall? Because I was having a really good conversation with a friend this morning about Ian McCall. He's a good manager in the lower leagues, but is he a manager that's capable of winning the leagues at clubs? That's the big question for me.
I don't think he is. And I mean, I like Ian McCall. I think he's a really good guy. I will just say as well, it's finished in Dingwall, Ross County 1, Hearts 2. So a massive win for Hearts. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I do like Ian McCall, but that's 4 defeats in the bounce. And again, the worry for me is if I'm a Partick fan would be the goals they're conceding. I think it was 4 last week, 3 this week. So they're conceding far too many goals, and that's not going to help.
The thing as well is, take Ayr out the equation here, and you could probably say Queen's Park as well. Rafe Rovers aren't, it's the best performance in the season, they've went and said, and that's all fine and well, but at the same time, they're not brilliant. They're not an excellent side, and they're a side that will be decent enough under Ian Murray, but they're not a side that are firing on all cylinders by any stretch of imagination. And that's an incredibly disappointment last wee well for Partick Thistle. The Dundee game on Saturday is massive for both clubs. Partick played Dundee on Saturday, and that's a massive game for both clubs. Massive for Partick in the aspect of need to bounce back, suppose that. Massive for Dundee and try to get their season up and running as well. That's a game of the weekend for me in the Championship next weekend. And then the final, what was the final? Hamilton Cove, well, I've said the best for last of it again. Absolute fantastic game, 4 apiece. And I read a report today in the Sunday Mail that John Rankin seemingly lost the changing room. Well, it didn't look like that. They obviously came back from 4-1 down to draw the Cove and could easily have won it. I think Brian Easter had an interview with Lanarkshire Live saying he was disappointed that they drew the game, which goes to show you.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Ryan scores a goal in the last minute, and you're thinking, I mean, if you're Cove, though, that must be gutting. You're 4-1 up. You think you're going to win the game. I mean, whether it's game management, I don't know. But to not win when you're 4-1 up must be a huge disappointment for Cove Rangers.
Well, Jim McIntyre's got COVID just now. So it was Jimmy Boyle that took the team yesterday. And I'm pretty sure Jim McIntyre would have been coughing up at the same time, screaming at his laptop or screaming at whatever he could possibly have done. I don't know how he'd have been getting kept up to date because obviously he'd have been in Scotland and obviously I don't know how it would have all entailed in terms of him being able to get access to watch the game. But I'm pretty sure whoever he'd have been speaking to, he'd have been looking at that and going, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That could have been a massive 3 points out of a Cove yesterday, especially with the Brough losing in the manner they did, especially with Hamilton and disarray just now. That could have been a massive win for Cove that yesterday. Now people look at that and say it was a poor point. And I've got sympathy for guys such as Mitch Megison because he hit his 200th goal for Cove yesterday. Yet people aren't going to speak about that.
I mean, you just look at, we've got a couple minutes left, but just look at the Championship. You've got Ayr on 24, Morton and Queen's Park on 21, Inverness on 21, Partick on 20, Dundee on 19, Raith on 19. You've got 7 teams in this Championship that could potentially win this league. I mean, it's just a brilliant league so far.
Oh, 100%. Every team's going to be competitive, and that's what I'm saying. 1 bad week or 2 bad weeks, and you can really write down that week. And 2 bad weeks, because football fans are so fickle, means managers are under pressure when they're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, what a massive letdown for our Brough and for Dick Campbell. I love Dick Campbell, but last season they were potential Championship winners. This season, they could go down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do fear the worst. They've got a good team still, Arbroath, but there's no cohesion, and that's where they're going wrong just now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of our very packed show as always. It remains for me to thank my good sidekick, David Smith. We are back this week. We're back on Tuesday at 10 o'clock to cover the Champions League game. We're back on Wednesday, and we're back on Thursday to cover Hearts in the Conference League. Thank you again for all your comments. Thank you for watching us, and we shall see you again during the week. Bye-bye.